Hey everyone, Jeff Johnson from the Gazette here with my better looking cohorts KJ Pilcher and Jeff Linder. Yep. Thanks to Nathan Ford as always for producing. We're going to talk obviously a little bit about some prep football, what happened last week, what's going on this week. All that little fun stuff, I guess. Let's start on, I guess, a down note, boys. Cedar Rapids Jefferson announced yesterday that it will not play its game Friday night at Kingston Stadium against Cedar Rapids Kennedy. Jayhawks had very low numbers to begin with. 21 dressed for the first game of the season. I think 19 dressed against Davenport Central last Thursday. That injuries and COVID have forced Jefferson to cancel its game Friday, and with the quote-unquote hopes of continuing the season as soon as possible. Thoughts, guys, and do you think that Jefferson will play another game this season?
Well, I think it's a shame. I feel bad for the kids that have fought through this. A lot of admiration for them. They just need to find some more kids, and whether that's now or whether that's between now and next season, somebody needs to do some good recruiting in the hallways of Jefferson High School.
Yeah, I mean, this is nothing that we're surprised about, probably. We kind of thought maybe they'd be on a week-to-week basis, given their numbers situation. It's not the first team to have a problem. Mid-Prairie forfeited Regina last week. So Jefferson's not all alone in this. I think they're going to end up being week to week, year on out. I don't think they're going to end up playing their full slate, but I also am holding out hope that they're not going to cancel everything altogether. And I'm trying to look up their remaining schedule here. And I know the big one, Southeast Polk, that they have. But I thought there were some other games that would be reasonable for them to maybe be able to play here. Probably not Lindmar on the 24th. They do have Ottumwa, Marshalltown still on their schedule. Waterloo West and Southeast Polk is there too, but I could see them maybe playing Ottumwa and Marshalltown if they have numbers.
Yeah, Ottumwa might be a game that they can compete in, and maybe Marshalltown as well.
Yes. And I mean, you look at last week, Jefferson ran for 250 yards or more against Davenport Central. Only got 7 points out of that, but it was the first 7 points of the season, and that's a pretty good rushing total. So I think that would, I mean, despite the score, what was the score? 42-7, I think it ended up. I mean, it was a relatively competitive game. So, it's we've talked about it a lot, and it's there are problems. This is a multifaceted issue, not an easy issue to define, and it's one that's going to take some work to try and figure out and to make Jefferson competitive again, and it's just too bad. And like you guys said, I just want to echo it. Kudos to the guys that have been sticking it out this season, that have played and continued to work hard and practice in a tough situation. So as I think as Christine said yesterday, it certainly sounds like a week-to-week type of a deal, and I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens next week with Lindmar on the schedule. So,
Has their freshman team continued to be successful? I know they beat Washington week 1. Have they won any more games since? You, either of you guys know?
I do not. So they would have played what? Well, I guess the freshman schedule isn't the same as like a sophomore varsity, right? So I'll see if you guys want to keep talking. I'll effort that and see if the MVC website has freshman stuff up there. Of course, they do not. Just just sophomore.
That's okay.
But just keeping that group together, I think, is a good thing moving forward. So.
And they are going to play a sophomore game Friday, right?
Yeah, 6 o'clock, I believe the start time was. So, if you still want to go out and watch football, I assume that's at Kingston Stadium. You can just go out and watch the sophomore game on Friday night. So,
it sure would be nice to see Jefferson supporters go out there for the sophomores, since there isn't a varsity game. Go out there and show support to those kids, because that's going to be the group that's going to have to kind of help push things forward for freshmen. So Jayhawk fans can get out there and kind of give those sophomores a boost.
Absolutely. Shall we look back at last week? I guess. How about you guys talk about the games you were at? Jeff, you saw Dyersville Beckman and Monticello play, and Beckman with a pretty convincing win there. Is that a legit football team?
Yes, very, very legit. They hit hard offensively and defensively. They got a really good back. I can't pronounce it. Owen Hewengarth, I think, is close. Hewengarth ran for a bunch of yards, about 250, 4 touchdowns, and they just out-physical Monticello. And they look like a very, very good 1A football team that's going to give some teams some problems. I think they're going to out-physical a lot of the teams that they play.
KJ, I think you were out at Kingston last week. Kennedy looked really good against Cedar Rapids, Washington. We got them ranked second, so I guess we can probably call Kennedy legit, right?
Yeah, I tell you what, they look pretty good against Washington. Both of those teams we had in the rankings. I think at the time Kennedy was 4th in 5A, Washington 3rd in 4A. On paper, it looked like it would be a really good matchup, and after Washington's first drive, they went up 7-0. Maybe it was their second drive. One of their early possessions had a really nice run by Miles Thompson, and then after that, it was out Kennedy. I mean, defensively, offensively, Carson Bleets had a fantastic job throwing the ball. Of course, they kind of unleashed another little weapon. Tell you what, Brendan Lindy didn't even have a catch coming into that game, and then ended up with 7 for like 111 yards and I believe 3 touchdowns. Couple 10-yarders and then 153-yarder where he got behind Washington's defense. I tell you what, if Kennedy keeps showing some balance, they're able to run the ball okay. But if they show some balance, because it's interesting. I think against Iowa City West, Lindy, you were there. I think they ran the ball a little bit more, and that kind of helped. Week 2 and week 3, they've been able to throw the ball in wins against Bettendorf and Wash. They look like they're coming together offensively well, strong up front. I think they showed Washington still has some holes in the offensive line, and they struggle a little bit when the team brings pressure, and that's what the Kennedy defense does. I tell you what, they're impressive. Pin their ears back and went after Reed Ortiz. The one thing about Kennedy's defense that I think is really shown through these first 3 weeks, their defense can get turnovers. I think they have 8 through the first 3 games, and that's against Iowa City West, Bettendorf, Cedar Rapids, Washington. So not necessarily, playing, Sisters of the Poor, I guess you could say. So Kennedy looked really impressive. Washington, good team. And I think it's something they're going to have to learn from and bounce back because their district is really tough in 4A. So they're going to have to shore some things up.
I was out at Prairie for a 24-21 Cedar Falls win. The ending is really all anybody's talking about for obvious reasons.
Right.
Prairie scored with, I think, 51 seconds left to take a 21-17 lead, and then that was the play that it's hard to even describe it, but first play from scrimmage at its own 20, Cedar Falls with a hook and ladder on steroids, as I've like to call it. It was a little hook pattern about 2-3 yards downfield, immediate lateral to a guy behind him, who then laterals to another guy behind him near the sideline, who pulls up and throws the ball across the field to the quarterback, Hunter Jacobson, who had a couple blockers out front, and he runs from like literally his own 10 to the Prairie 15, and then throws a touchdown pass with 7 seconds left to win the game. So, it was a trick play, hallelujah, for Cedar Falls. That was how it scored, 2 of its 3 touchdowns in that game. So, for Prairie, guys, that has the starters or the intended starters back now after being out for 3 games for violation of school policy. And Prairie was impressive in 2 wins to start the season, and it was pretty impressive here against Cedar Falls. So, how do you think, having a full complement of players back, assuming they play, how you think that's going to help Prairie here, kind of moving forward?
I have no idea. I have no idea who's going to play and whether Coach Bliss is going to give all those guys their spots back right away, or if he's going to say, "Hey, you got to earn it during the week," or "Hey, you got to earn it next week." I don't know what they'll do. I have no idea what their 2D might look
I
like.
think Coach Bliss has a dilemma sitting in front of him. What do you do? These guys have been playing hard. They stayed out of trouble. Do you keep going until, you keep going with them until, they're not having any success? And I don't really think the Cedar Falls game, even though it wasn't a victory, I don't think it was unsuccessful by any means, given the strength of Cedar Falls. That's that's a really good team and a top 10 matchup. The thing that's really going to show through, though, could be the maturity and the chemistry of this Prairie team, because you can inject those players back into their starting spots, and the chemistry could go downhill. There could be a rift between players, depending on how they handle the suspension, stuff like that. If, for lack of a better term, if those suspended players come back with humility, and have put their nose to the grindstone and worked hard, earn their spots back, and mesh well with players that have been in there the first 3 weeks, I think it'll make them stronger. If there isn't that, there could be a little bit of an issue with how the team, with the team unity a little bit. So Coach Bliss has his hands full to kind of balance that out, and I think that's going to be the indicator of whether or not they're stronger, or we see them kind of regress a little bit with those guys back. If that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and you got a handful of parents now too.
Right.
My kid stayed out of trouble. Why isn't my kid playing now? And that philosophy isn't wrong. So There's a lot of layers to this, and I have no idea how it's going to turn
Well, I mean, we're talking. I mean, it's no secret who the players are, or at least most of them. I mean, we're talking, some important guys offensively, skill guys, receivers, quarterback, things like that. And then I think 2 or 3 starters on defense. Have you guys seen Prairie at all this season?
I have not yet.
out.
Okay. I was impressed. I thought the defense was honestly as good as I've seen. Out there, that the offense is going to put up points and yards and things like that. But I like the defense. Like I said, Cedar Falls won that game with a couple of trick plays. So I think Prairie. I like Prairie a lot. I think if the guys who were out can come in and there's kind of a seamless transition. I like Prairie a lot. Here, moving forward. And, again, like you guys said, we'll find out a lot Friday night how this whole thing works out. Bettendorf is the opponent. So doesn't get a whole lot easier, obviously, for the Hawks. But it's unfortunate. I think, at least right now, I think Kennedy and Prairie obviously are the 2 best teams in town, and they don't play each other for once after playing a couple of times, I think, last year. So,
how about some of the games they've had in the past where it's boiled down to maybe a playoff spot or district title and stuff, and then now they're not even on the schedule with each other.
Yeah. It's just the way it worked out, I guess, this season. So,
And just to kind of piggyback on you a little bit, you talk about those 2 being the best 2 teams in town. Metro football is not bad this year.
no,
Xavier is Xavier. Washington's 2-1, and we haven't even talked about Linn-Mar yet. And I'd say they're probably the biggest surprise in town.
yeah, the Lions are 3-0 going into their game Friday night against Washington. And I have not seen the Lions yet. Have either one of you guys caught Linn-Mar?
No.
Jeff, you did? No? Okay.
No, I haven't yet. I haven't seen either of them yet. I see both of them on Friday, but they must be pretty good defensively, which is something that's really been a problem for them the last 5 or 10 years.
I got to watch their game with Liberty a couple weeks ago. I was pretty impressed with what they were able to do, especially defensively. I think offensively, they had a pretty solid rush game. Carter Henderson found out, thanks to Twitter folks, that Carter Henderson is actually, I think, a cousin or nephew to a former Marion running back. You'll recognize the name Matt Wyckoff, who is an extremely talented running back for Marion. But he rushed for 129 yards. I think they have a really strong offense, rushing game. Passing game, so-so a little bit. And their defense. And when you have those 2 elements, that can carry you a long way. I think they're very solid defensively, and with Henderson and rush game, they kind of filter in with Sage Holmes a little bit. I think TJ Jackson also is a little bit of a change of pace back for him. I think Tim Lovell's kind of got the real deal there. I think if they're not right there with Prairie and Kennedy, they're just a short run below.
Of course, Linn-Mar with the 18-7 win last week at Pleasant Valley, which is, was the semifinals last year, and the Spartans are 1-2, and probably don't want to see any more teams from the Cedar Rapids Metro because the Spartans have lost to Linn-Mar and Prairie here in the first 3 weeks. So, but yeah, another really interesting game as that Jeff will be at with Linn-Mar and Washington on Friday night. as you guys mentioned, Xavier went to 3-0, 29-7 over Dubuque Wahlert last week, and trying to think who else haven't we hit in the Metro. Marion lost to go to 0-3, lost to Benton Community. I think that's everybody, right? 28-6 was that final score, by the way. Iowa City Schools. We've had City High improve to 3-0. Yeah, with a convincing win over Ames. And let's talk a little bit about the Little Hawks. I think we'll know a heck of a lot more after Friday night because West Des Moines Dowling comes to Batesfield to play the Little Hawks. Is that kind of what you guys think too?
Yeah, I think this is a proven game for City High. Not a must win by any means, but a must compete. And I think they will. I don't think they're going to get blown out by Dowling. For one thing, Dowling doesn't score a lot of points. They're not, it doesn't seem like they're an explosive team. So I think City High will compete. They've only given up 5 points in 3 games. So I don't know if they can win the game, but I think they'll be right in it.
Dowling lost last week to Ankeny 27-13. Pilcher, I'll let you get in here in a second. Uncharacteristically 1-2, but of course playing a very tough schedule and had their outstanding quarterback. I think his last name Smolik, out with an injury. He's a Division I type of talent that transferred in from Southeast Polk, which already had as a Division I quarterback. So Dowling kind of going through a little bit of a transition too with that, I guess. But Pilch, go ahead with what you were thinking there.
Well, I just think we've seen some really good athletes kind of shine for City High so far. Darren Richardson kind of leads the way with rushing for him, 237 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think as a team, they kind of have a dual quarterback set there. Ben Keeter has been pretty fantastic for him. He leads them in receiving yards and has 2 receptions for a touchdown. He's also one of their top defensive players. So, they also have Gable Mitchell, part of that crew as well. So I think they have some really good athletes. And just to echo what Lindy said, this is a team probably wouldn't, write down a win against Dowling and 4-0 for them, but it's one that they're going to compete. They're going to compete in and be in that game as well. And who knows? Maybe Mitch Moore takes a page out of Dan Saber's book and fake punts for a winning touchdown. I don't know. Maybe.
There was that season, or there were multiple seasons, I think, at City High. Punting was just simply not allowed.
Right. They lost that page.
Let's look through maybe some of the scores here. We'll maybe reflect on some games here. I'll ask you guys to reflect on some scores from last week. Just kind of scrolling through here. This is in no particular order or class or really alphabetized or anything, but East Buchanan 28-19. Win over Starmont Cascade, a high scoring affair, 45-35 over Anamosa. Appleton Parkersburg 43-24 over Jessup. I believe that was Jessup's first loss of the season. Sigourney Kyoto over Centerville 42-7. Savage Cobras just picking up where they left off last season. They're 3-0. Vinton Shellsburg and Waterloo Columbus with a 35-0 victory there. We neglected Iowa City West when we were talking about Metro and Iowa City schools. Dubuque Hempstead with a 39-31 win over the Trojans last week. North Cedar, Jeff, 26-9 over Pekin. Has North Cedar ever beaten Pekin in football? What do you think?
I'm not sure they've ever played Pekin before. That would be a long trip.
Yes, 100%. Northeast Goose Lake 42-28 over Durant. Edgewood Colesburg 54-6 over Central City. We talked last week a little bit about the Vikings transitioning from 11 player to 8 player football. Fort Dodge 36-6 over Waterloo East. That's a team, guys, that went from 5A to 4A and is 3-0. Is Fort Dodge a legit team? What do you think?
Pretty good. I don't think they're an elite 4A team, but I think they're pretty good. I'm looking to see who they play this week. They got Marshalltown this week, and then Webster City, Spencer. Yeah, I think that'll probably be a playoff team in 4A.
North Tama goes to 3-0 with a 30-6 win over Hudson. I think the Red Hawks are a really good football team in Class A. Lansing Key 66-39 over Springville. It was Lone Tree 66-40 over HLV. Linville Sully beat East Marshall 48-21. It was West Branch all over Maquoketa Valley 52-0. Colonesco 66-26 over Meskwaki Settlement School. Easton Valley continues to roll 61-8 over Midland. Iowa City, Regina, and Mid Prairie had that forfeit last week, or Mid Prairie had the forfeit, which goes down in the books as a 1-0 final in favor of Regina. And Montezuma 67-32 over BGM. KJ, I know you. We talked about it on a 4 Down segment this morning or yesterday, I guess, in the online when it was posted earlier. Eddie Burgess just keeps doing Eddie Burgess things, huh?
Yeah, right. Isn't it crazy? I mean, you open up a box score and you just expect to see these gaudy numbers from him. And he had 647 total yards of offense. He scored rushing, receiving, and passing, of course. I think he might have turned for 5 of those touchdowns. And then when you look at defensively, he's right. He's one of the leading tacklers for Montezuma. Had an interception as well. I think maybe a couple tackles for loss. I mean, I think he fixed BGM's bus so they could drive home. Shut off the lights when everybody left. I mean, he does a little bit of everything, and it's not just a little bit of everything. I mean, these numbers are just out of sight. And, I know it's an 8 player. So sometimes those are inflated, but even for 8 player, this is just mind boggling, what he does. And he does it, kind of week in and week out, and people know who to focus on. And he still puts up these big numbers. And, kind of, like you said, I really got a kick out of the last thing I heard from him when I did a preseason story or week 1 story. And I think Linder alluded to it in his response. He said, "Enjoy the show," and he's been putting on a show each week.
And the thing that we keep forgetting, or maybe we don't forget them, but we don't bring up is all these yards are happening on an 80-yard field. And, he gets a breakaway. That's 20 yards a breakaway that he's not getting credited for.
Right. That kind of balances out the 8-player versus 11-player thing a little bit too, because he's working with a smaller field and still putting up these big numbers.
Yeah.
Best player on the field every game they play. So it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing athlete and a really good kid too. So
I will say this too. As big of an influence as he's been offensively, that semifinal against Remsen, St. Mary's, turning point was when he got hurt in that semifinal and he came off the field defensively and just stuck it out at quarterback. And that's when Remsen really kind of took control and started scoring. So it's not just offensively, it's defensively as well.
Let's fly through the rest of the scores from the area last week. Northland continues to have a great season, 43-13 win over Bellevue. Actually, somebody scored on Northland, so Coach Collin probably not very happy about that. I kid. So Postville, North Fayette Valley, 64-0. The NFV is off to a 3-0 start. And kind of looking through some of the other scores, scrolling. Clayton Ridge, 7-0 over South Winneshiek. Clayton Ridge looks like one of those teams that's really taken a step forward this season, as opposed to recent seasons up there. Waco over English Valley's back in 8-player game, 38-13. Grundy Center must have been mad about losing 35-0 over Wapsie Valley. That's a pretty impressive score to me, guys. So guess that's why we have them ranked second. Belle Plaine 52-0 over Corden Wayne. Boy, Belle Plaine's playing some different schools this season. So Waverly Shellrock 31-14 over Webster City. That's a nice win there for a legit Go Hawks team. Wilton 39-14 over Highland. It was Waterloo West, Davenport West. Waterloo West, the winner there, 45-7. North Scott 38-14 over Davenport Assumption. That score, I guess, was kind of eye popping to me there, boys. What did you think? A couple of good teams, and I guess they're in different classes now, right?
Yeah. North Scott's 4A, Assumption's 3A. A little surprised. I'm surprised by the amount of points North Scott put up. Yeah. Assumption's a good defensive team, but looks like North Scott throws it all over the place.
Just kind of reloading from that state championship team last year. Mount Vernon 49-0 over Tipton. Clear Creek and Man over Washington, Iowa 48-14. Waukon 42-6 over Crestwood. Comanche doubles up Macoka to 30-15. Grinnell 48-20 over South Tama. Independence rolls past West Liberty 45-0. Western Dubuque 21-10 over Iowa City Liberty. MFL Marmac with a nice win over Osage 35-28. We mentioned the Beckman 48-21 win over Monticello. It was New Hampton over Owine 50-20. And West Delaware beat Decorah 42-21. Center Point Urbana 28-7 over Union, and the Solon Williamsburg game 28-14 Solon. We all predicted that Williamsburg will which has run the gauntlet, will pick up its first win this week over Central Lee. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, right, boys? As far as that schedule,
I guess that's a great way to put it, considering what they faced here. I mean, when you look at Van Meter, Gina, and Solon, and boy, they actually were in two of those games. I think Solon pulled away late. Regina won by 2. Van Meter was the only one that really wasn't contested. But yeah, I hate to be the district teams that are going to face them here down the road, because they're going to look to take it out on somebody, and they're going to be battle tested, that's for sure. And it's worked out for them in the past.
They go from running the gauntlet to running the table now the next 5 games.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
That sounds like a story lead, Lindy. There you go.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of games, 3 games actually in the state tomorrow night, Thursday night. We're taping this on Wednesday, including Solon at Davenport Assumption. So the Spartans look to go to 4-0. There are a couple of games elsewhere. Sioux City West hosts Council Bluffs Lincoln, and then for some reason Central Decatur and Eldon Cardinal are playing tomorrow night. So something going on in Leon on Friday night, I guess, that they're playing tomorrow night. But all right, I guess we can run down the whole schedule for Friday. But I mean, is there anything that kind of trips your guys' triggers before we do that, either state-wise or in the area games, coming up Friday night? I'm just going to mention Ankeny at Southeast Polk. just in 5A. What do we have, Ankeny? Like third or fourth? Is that right?
I think they're third. I think they went from like 2 to 10 to 4 after beat by Centennial, and then they came back and beat Dowling, right? So
Yeah.
I think they're pretty good. I think there's a lot of teams over there that are pretty good. I think Southeast Polk's really, really good. So I think Southeast Polk wins.
We haven't talked much about Des Moines Metro, but it just seems like, as you said, Jeff, it just seems like Southeast Polk is the team, and then there's a whole bunch of other, maybe a handful of other schools that are all kind of in the same mix. And we talked about Waukee Northwest splitting this season. Did you know that they don't play each other?
I did know that, and I don't understand why.
Yeah. Unless it was intentional on the part of both schools.
They just kind of wanted to keep the peace for a couple of years and let the inner city hate wait a while.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they're both 0-3. A couple of the games that I'm kind of looking forward to. One, North Scott Xavier on tomorrow or Friday at Saints Field. You've got Mediapolis and Regina, which I think both teams are unbeaten. Regina's homecoming that night. MFL Marmac and Waterloo Columbus. I think that's going to be a heck of a game at Waterloo as well. And then there's one of the Central Iowa games that I can't think of. In addition to Ankeny and Southeast Polk. Maybe I was thinking who's Johnston play this week? Maybe I was thinking they had somebody.
They play Northwest.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for both of those Waukee schools with Northwest playing Johnston and then Waukee playing Valley.
Kind of talking a little bit about games looking forward to. Every week's going to be at least 2 big games in that Class 2A District 2. All 4 of us, counting Nathan, are on the Gazette polling committee for that, and that District 2 has 5 of the top 8 teams in Class 2A. 2 of them, OABCIG and Southeast Valley, play each other this week. Estherville's right up there. Spirit Lake, Pocahontas we have in there this week. So, one of those 5 teams isn't going to make the playoffs, and right now they're in the top 8 in the state.
Let's look at some of the other games.
Hey, one other one I want to mention too, really quick, JJ. Des Moines Roosevelt at Urbandale. I think that could be interesting, especially after Roosevelt's latest accomplishment. Too, see how they carry that on, and if they can get another win over a suburban school.
Yeah, that was the first one a couple weeks ago since Christ left Omaha, right? I mean, years and years. So I mean, that's great. I mean, doesn't that make you guys feel good? Of Des Moines Public School being able to compete against all the power and the money and the enrollment of the suburban schools out there. So to me, that's a kind of a feel good type of a deal. So we mentioned or KJ mentioned Xavier, North Scott on Friday night, Williamsburg and Central Lee. We mentioned that one. Western Dubuque plays Dubuque Hempstead. Waverly and West Delaware boys at Waverly. Any thoughts on that one?
Waverly's looked tough.
I think they proved that against Waukon in week 1. I think West Delaware is probably a little better than Waukon, but they'll have their hands full with Waverly.
And another good game up there, Waukon and North Fayette Valley. on Friday night at Walcon. That's maybe kind of a proving game for NFV.
Absolutely.
Vinton Schultzberg and Independence play, just kind of running through the area score lists or the area games. Saltama, Benton Community, Mid Prairie and Eddyville, Blakesburg, and Fremont. Don't forget Fremont. That's the key there with Eddyville and Blakesburg. Dubuque Wahlert, LaPorte City Union, which is a very strange matchup to me. Iowa City, Liberty, Clear Creek, and Manna, Jessup against Owine. Clinton and Maquoketa to play, Decorah at Charles City, Fort Madison at Washington, Iowa, Ankeny Centennial at Cedar Falls. Interesting game at the Unidome. Center Point Urbana at Mount Vernon, DeWitt Central, which seems to have a really good team at Marion. We mentioned Cedar Rapids, Washington, and Linn-Mar, which is which one of you two is going to be? Jeff's going to be there, right?
Yeah, that'll be me.
Yeah. And we talked about Jefferson Kennedy game being canceled. Downport North at Iowa City West. I'll be at Dowling and City High. Really curious to see that one. Bettendorf at Prairie, as we mentioned. Winfield Mount Union at HLV. Central Line and West Line going back outside the state. Always a slobber knocker there. So real interesting game, as it is every season. We got Riceville at Turkey Valley, Postville at Sumner Fredericksburg, North Lynn at Clayton Ridge, which could be interesting. Starmont at South Winneshiek, Pleasantville's at Sigourney Keota. That's a little bit of a haul there. Travel wise, also have Animals at Northeast Goose Lake, Nashua Plainfield at North Tama, Ogden at North Mahaska, Tipton at Monticello, GMG at Meskwaki, Lansing Key is at Calamus Wheatland, Columbus Junction plays at Lisbon. Scrolling through some more. Mediapolis at Iowa City Regina. That's a game I guess we haven't talked about yet, guys. But Meepo, 3-0 and always a good football team and program. So is that a game that could really be something?
Yeah, I think so. It'll be interesting to see how Regina comes off that week without a game against Mid Prairie. You know, there are two ways it can go. It could either be a nice little rest and an extra week of preparation, or it can kind of get teams out of sync because, you know, your routine's a little off or you might be a little rusty. So we'll see how they bounce back from that. And Meepo, you know, they came off a really good year last year. I think Sigourney Keota ended their year in the playoffs. So I think this could be a really, really close game.
Let's finish up here. Alburnett is at East Buchanan. We've got Edgewood Colesburg at Elkader Central. We all previously mentioned MFL Marmac and Waterloo Columbus playing. Belle Plaine at Colfax Mingo, Midland against Central City. Louisa Muscatine at West Branch, BGM at Woodward Academy. That's another strange kind of travel game there, I guess. Bellevue at Maquoketa Valley, Cascade, and Dyersville Beckman, and that is always a rivalry in every sport. Easton Valley at Springville, North Cedar at Highland. So you want to tell everybody where you'll be at on Friday night, guys?
For the Warriors and the Lions.
I will be.
Nope, go ahead.
I will be at Saints Field for the 4A game between North Scott and Cedar Rapids 8.
And Twitter-wise, that's at JT Linder for Jeff and at KJ Pilcher for KJ. I am at JEJE66, and I will be at Batesfield for City High and Dowling. We're also covering a bunch of other games. Nathan Ford does a great job putting together some video and kind of recapping Friday night on late Friday night / early Saturday morning. So we'll have that going again. Anything else anybody wants to bring up?
Just like to remind people that we do have those four down questions that the staff answered at Gazette.com, Iowa Prep Sports. I'll be working on a Landmark feature leading into this week's games on Friday, so make sure to check the Gazette.com for that feature as well.
And don't forget about the Green Gazette. If you are a subscriber, that's free. And it is basically another sports section with all the high school games included in it. You can just get on your computer and read it. It is literally another newspaper. It's only online. And, you know, if you like the hard copy, just print it out and read it that way if you want to. So that's another thing that we're doing this season, the Green Gazette. Guys, enjoy Friday night. Sounds like it might be a little warm, but it's going to be dry, which is always key. Nathan, thank you. Appreciate what you guys do. And keep reading us at the Gazette. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week for another edition of the Prep Huddle.
Keep your head on a swivel.